everyone, I'm Michelle from Wildish Living and I'm so glad you could join me. Today we're going to explore 8 different ways of using vintage furniture in your home. If you've watched any of my other videos, you know that I love using vintage. If you haven't, be sure to check them out. I use it in my own home and I also run a vintage Etsy shop. I did a previous video on my top 10 vintage items to look for when decorating and organizing your home, but I did have viewers asking me to do one on vintage furniture, so here it is. Now let me know in the comments if you used any of these items in your home. I would love to know what you are doing with your vintage finds. All right, let's start with the front hall or entrance. There is a ton of vintage furniture that you can use right when you walk in your house in your front entrance. We all need a spot to throw our keys, our bags, our groceries, whatever we've hauled in from the car. It's nice to have a nice inviting space in the front. And you might as well use a really beautiful piece of vintage furniture to do that. So I'm sure everyone has different styles and tastes, and you can find vintage piece to put in your front hallway to fit any style. A lot of people like to use dressers. There's drawers for storage, which is also a nice feature. So many different styles of vintage furniture that you can put in your front hall. There's a nice demi-lune table. You could use a nice round table if you have a larger space to fill up. You can use, there's a lot of more traditional pieces that you can find that are a little more fancy, or you can go more farmhouse and rustic in a primitive style. There's so much vintage furniture that will look great in your entrance or hallway. Here's a desk that you can also use, again with the drawers. And you can also go with a shabby chic look depending on your decor style. Don't forget you can use a nice bench in your front entranceway as well. It's somewhere great you can sit down to put your shoes on or put your bags on. So don't forget about using benches as well as a storage unit. If you have a really big space, there's a nice large coat closet as well. Moving on to bedside tables. This is just a beautiful small way to add a piece of vintage in a bedroom. You can use anything from a tiny little table to a large dresser beside your bed. You can see that there's lots of different styles you can incorporate. Again, anything that's more primitive or more fancy, mid-century, farmhouse. Any kind of piece of furniture that is just small enough to sit beside your bed to put a few things on, maybe a little bit of storage with a drawer in it. But there's a ton of stuff that you can find that would fit into your decor style, that would be vintage, that you could put beside your bed and just have that nice little space to put things on. But it also brings a lot of character into your room. And a nice trunk really works really nice. Don't forget about that. Dressers, tables, yeah, trunks, any little small table, whether it's painted or an original finish, looks beautiful in the bedroom. And don't forget about using vintage also in your dressers and in your storage pieces in your room as well. Okay, kitchen storage is another great place that we can add vintage into our homes. There's a ton of vintage hutches, cabinets, anything you could think of. We all have way too much stuff in our kitchen. If you like to cook or entertain, you probably have a ton of dishes and servingware and baking apparatuses that you need a home for. So what better thing to do than to bring in a nice piece of storage into your kitchen. There's a ton of older cabinets that maybe weren't in a nice finish. You can definitely upcycle. Here's a dresser that's been used into an island. You can just take out the drawers, add a nice top on it, and you have a great little island. There's a ton of pieces that have beautiful lines and designs, whether you like something curvy or a little more straight line. Don't be afraid to paint it, refinish it, take it down to bare wood. Depending on your style, there is some amazing pieces out there that you could find for literally dollars. People don't want them anymore because some of them are way too big, but they might fit really nice into your home. And you can just give it a nice update with a coat of paint or a refinish. And there you go, a great place to store all of your stuff. It holds a ton, but you can get something in every size. It depends how big your kitchen is, but there's some gorgeous pieces out there. So if you want to do something interesting, add a vintage piece to your kitchen. It doesn't have to be storage, so you can use tables as well. A beautiful way to add something. So your living room is another place where vintage is definitely welcome. Usually in a side piece like a credenza or a little table, we'll have a nice little spot to add our lamps and our artwork and our decor pieces that we love. And without these surfaces, there's not going to be anywhere to put them. So instead of buying a brand new piece from a big box store, why not go out and hunt down a beautiful piece that speaks to you? As you can see, dressers work really well because it also works for storage. You can use credenzas, tables. There's primitive pieces that are a little more industrial looking. There's some traditional pieces that look really lovely. Again, like I said, dressers are a great thing to use, as well as credenzas. That's a great place to hide all of your games, your books, your photo albums, whatever it is you want to keep in your living room, but you want a little storage there. Then just bring in a nice vintage piece into your living room. It again adds personality, and you can customize it. You can upcycle and refinish a piece to make it match what decor style you have going on in your space. There's some beautiful mid-century pieces with antique or other light woods with the really nice lines on them. Those always look really beautiful. They're getting a little hard to find these days, but if you search, you're definitely going to find something that's going to work in every kind of style. And don't forget vintage bookshelves and other kinds of cabinets. Besides the credenzas, that's another great way to use vintage in your living room. So next we move on to dining room storage, and some of these pieces are similar to what you might use in a living room because they are storage pieces. So a lot of buffets and credenzas, um, a lot of longer pieces with either drawers or doors on them, that sometimes sliding doors that you might find. So a great place to store all of your extra dishes that you need only once in a while when you are entertaining and you need somewhere to put them, and also a nice place to style some decor into your dining room as well. Again, you can use little dressers, credenzas, buffets. Definitely upcycle some pieces that maybe have an old ugly finish on them that you can either repaint or strip down. And don't forget to add some taller storage pieces in your dining room, glass cabinets to display all your dishware and any of your other pretty things that you want to hang on to. So next we're going to look at coffee tables. There's some amazing pieces that you can find to bring into your living room that may be a conversation starter, anything from just an old rustic piece to something more traditional. I've seen, here's a nice block of wood. It's just a nice aged rustic piece of wood that would look beautiful in the right design setting. Here is a architect's set of drawers. Here is a suitcase, and steamer trunks are another great item that you can use for your dining room table because it also offers some storage inside if you need to hide some things. But that's quite popular. I've seen a lot of those being used as trunks. There's some really beautiful pieces. Here's a nice table that's been cut down into more of a coffee table, a little more farmhouse look. You can also go with the mid-century. You can find a ton actually of mid-century style coffee tables with their nice clean lines and some open shelving below. So depending on your style, there's a ton of coffee tables that you can bring in and just add some more personality and character into your room and gives it your own look. Moving on to bathroom vanities. This is a place I don't think people think of adding vintage into their home, but you can take any beautiful piece of vintage furniture like a dresser, a table, a desk, a credenza, a buffet, you could name it, depending on the size of the space that you're working with. You just need to drop a sink in it, put a beautiful countertop on it. It gives you drawers for storage, and it just really adds that visual interest into your bathroom and keeps it from looking like a cookie cutter builder style bathroom, and it really brings in a lot of warmth into your space, a lot of interest. there's so many different things that you can bring into your bathroom. Like, the sky's the limit. Just use your imagination. Find a beautiful piece that you love. Here's some pink pieces that caught my eye, and I thought they were just darling, so I've added those photos in. And then you can also add some towel storage into your bathroom too. It doesn't have to be in your vanity. You can use a vintage storage piece in there as well. So moving on to chairs. Chairs is the last thing I want to talk about. What a great way to just add a chair into almost any room. There's so many beautiful vintage, like velvet chairs out there that aren't being used anymore. And to bring that into your space is really going to add some interest and personality. There is so many different styles and colors. You can reupholster chairs if you like the shape of it, but not the fabric. Then it's definitely very easy to reupholster some chairs. It could just be the seating, it could be the whole thing. Sometimes just a cushion is all that's needed. There's some beautiful colors and fabrics that would really just add a ton of interest to your room. So don't overlook vintage chairs when you're trying to fill and restyle your living room. Mid-century modern has amazing, beautiful styles. I'm a big fan of mid-century modern. I mean, who doesn't like a pink chair? Maybe not everybody, but yeah, your living room is a great place to add an occasional chair. And then of course in your dining room or in your kitchen, it's always fun to add some vintage chairs to that. You can mix and match. You can just add one style. You can repaint and refinish some boring chairs. And then you can also just have, if you find a chair you love in a certain shape, you can just add it to a corner of a room somewhere. It really adds just a little bit of fun, a little conversation. And again, in the front hallway, adding some vintage benches is a great way to fill that space and sit down. But don't overlook chairs that come from the past instead of buying brand new, because you're sure to add a ton of interest and personality. So that wraps up 8 ways to use vintage furniture in your home. I hope that you enjoyed that little video. I hope you got some great ideas and inspiration for your own home. Don't forget to leave in the comments if you've used vintage furniture in your own home and how you've used it. I'd love to know. Love it if you hit that like button so that I know you're enjoying the videos that I'm putting out. It would also be great if you want to hit that subscribe button as well. Join my community so that we can discuss more on using vintage in your decor. Also, don't forget to hit the bell to be notified when any future videos come out down the road. Thanks for watching from wherever you are in the world. I appreciate it. And I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Wildish Living. Take care.